All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WGL EU 2015 and 16 Season 1. My name is Mitch Leslie. I'm joined here, of course, by Oliver Laughter Maxfield. And Melly, of course, is actually unwell today, so unfortunately we don't have her brightening up this space. But we'll do our very best for you, ladies and gentlemen. Laughter, seen some interesting games in our first match of the day, of course, between Supreme and ASAP. It was a 5-0 win, of course, over to Supreme.
Yeah, a little bit of a one-sided affair, obviously in favour of Supreme. We kind of predicted at the beginning, ASAP just joining us and Supreme being full of such brilliant players and such old-school players. I didn't really see it going another way. I think, say, ASAP needs a touch more time to get in touch into the league. Okay,
obviously our second match of the day, as you can see on your screen, Tornado Rocks going up against Ding. Two teams we haven't seen yet in the WGL EU, at least not in these particular permutations. What can you tell us about them?
Well, Ding, coming from Silver Series as first place seed, they replaced, obviously, Drooling Leprechauns, one of the teams that sadly left us from Season 5. A kind of a team like ASAP, not full of players we particularly know about. They've been around the scene for a little bit of time. They are, you know, kind of tipped to be one of the better teams that's ever joined the Wargaming League. And I'm really excited to see what they can provide. I mean, always new blood is great, and especially when they train a lot and try really hard, it brings another element and adds a little bit more to the scene for sure. And then Tornado Rocks, kind of like an amalgamation of various CIS players from the Russian region, for RU and CIS region, some European team players as well. Obviously, they were known as polite people before. They tried to get into Season 5 as well, didn't manage to make it, of course. But, you know, we got some great players there. I mean, I can go through a few. Zik from Mind, you know, Mind from the Russian League. He's also Negative. You've got to know Negative. Positive as well from New Star. Armageddon for Redgar TM, if anyone remembers them. And I think it's a solid lineup.
Yeah, of course. And you add to that as well, if you're talking about Tornado Rocks, Vorsik, ex-School Bus, and even before that was Invertus Pro, and the Annihilator as well from School Bus. Obviously, School Bus, their players went sort of in two different directions. Yep. Obviously, one towards Team Supreme, and of course one over towards Tornado Rocks. Now, it's a tough game to really to get an opinion of, because as you just said, a lot of players that we've seen before, even Meritorious on the side of Ding, has joined up with them, and we've seen him around the traps for quite some time here. We've seen him a little bit through the qualifiers. We've seen the results come through. Yep. Can you give us a prediction on how you think this is going to go?
This is, I think, going to be a close match. I think, you know, I had the chance to look at some matches from Ding during their off season, and I saw some very good points. I saw they're clearly a new team, but then again, you know, Rocks is such a strange mixing pot of players that I'm not sure exactly what they can provide. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, the story with Vorsik, if he got kicked from School Bus, if he got kicked from Virtus Pro. You know, everyone remembers that disastrous moment in the Season 4 finals where, you know, it was against School Bus and they made some big mistakes on the cliff and he got benched in Virtus Pro. Then he went to School Bus for Grand Finals, didn't play well there as well, and now he's in Rocks. So I'm really looking forward to see if he's actually found his home, because I remember the guy from Season 3 of the Russian League, and he was absolutely fantastic. So hopefully he's actually got some fighting spirit and will provide some great matches.
Yeah, Vorsik on the up and down. This is obviously his chance, I guess, to demonstrate sort of where he's at. Be interesting to see how he performs. Obviously, our first map today, it's going to be one that you guys would have seen before. It is Ruinberg. All right, so from the middle of your screen, or the left of your screen, should I say, it's going to be Ding on the attacking side in red. Tornado Rocks are defending on the blue side. Tank picks are out. We can see them in front of us now, Laughter. Anything catching your eye?
I think this is just going to be a pretty standard lineup from both teams. I mean, we got the IS3, I guess, the Annihilator playing that one. Two T54s all around, LTTBs. Two of them is a little bit unusual. Kind of surprised they didn't just pick a tier 6 tank and gone for the extra tier 8. And Ding, you know, just 5100 is the only one that stands out from my eye. Obviously, you know, they're playing the attacking side, so 5100 slightly slower. Could cause them problems in the long run, but also provide some great damage.
Okay, Ding obviously spawning from the centre of the city. The onus is on them to sally out from the streets, from the concentric city space and make their way towards either one of those two caps. One in the north, of course, seems to be the first priority, and a little bit like the Himmelsdorf North cap, there are points where you can sneak onto the circle and be hidden from view, or at least obscured from shots from some direction. So Streko, the only man for Tornado Rocks now in the north, just keeping an eye on that cap as he rolls through that city. He's a little bit out in the open here, and I think Diplomat will spot him just about now, and he's got to be a little bit careful. Probably wants to shift himself. Tornado Rocks now, information feeding through towards them. Diplomat able to nimbly dodge those two shots, and Streko taking some damage there. Diplomat, we see this before, moving up in towards those houses just to try and shake out whoever's there. Unlike last season in a few of the games, especially at the grand finals, we saw a lot of tanks concentrated up here. Now it's just going to be the 1v1 for the moment here with Streko and Diplomat. He's got a full chamber ready to go. Meritorious as well in the city. We'll be able to join in just a moment. Most of Tornado Rocks just setting up on that middle road here. Maybe a bit of a cookie cutter approach to the defending here.
Yeah, but you know, this is going to go very well for Ding. They've got Streko where they want him. There's really no tanks that can defend from Tornado. They are finally, you know, realizing that they actually have to get some defensive tanks. So I imagine Stoic is just going to put some pressure on with the T-37. Streko's eventually going to die, as you can see. Diplomat finds him, and you'll see the cap now starting, and you know, Tornado a little bit late to the party.
It's definitely not the fastest response we've seen from a team. We could see like Vorsen, we'll call him for now, makes his way over towards the cityscape, but there are people already on the capture zone. I mean, the rest of Tornado Rocks now are responding. The IS-3 there of the Annihilator isn't going to be very, very fast to the fight at all. The LTTB flank from negative here, you can see through the city. It's going to be just Hulknik was left back as a bit of a contingency by Ding to spot that one out now. So, I mean, time's ticking down. Ding haven't exactly invested a great deal towards that cap. What's the next step for Tornado Rocks?
Well, Tornado Rocks need to get those T-54s onto Diplomat as quickly as possible. You can see the 1 versus 1. Negative actually losing out on this one so far, and that's the problem. You know, well, Holnick losing out, just about getting away with that. But he's done so much damage with that LTTB that the Armageddon's just going to be able to do and finish him off. The
double tap into the rear of the Armageddon is going to make that a costly flex around for him. He goes down very, very quickly. Meritorious and Percruciat were there to deal with him now. Great work there from Vorsen and Zik to pick up Diplomat now, and Tornado Rocks able to make their way over towards this cap. I mean, it's still a 4v4 situation. Meritorious with 3 in the chamber. He's going to now change his position and get ready to fire on that northern cap. But Tornado Rocks are backing up. There's no reason for them to push onto it here, and Shockersic is going to take a shot from positive.
See, now, because Percitate and Meritorious had to rotate around to take down the Armageddon, it didn't... I don't know if it worked out that well for them, because they had the cap pressure there. You know, Hulk took down that LTTB of negative, so I'm not sure exactly why they wanted to just take down that T-54 if they could have won it via the cap, but it's okay for them still. They're rotating. They got Meritorious just coming off reload, the Annihilator and IS-3. Now, when I was looking at them, I mean, Ding were always an eastern side cap. They're very eastern side orientated, and I was really surprised to see them go for that northern cap straight away. And also, you know, Ding is that team which always wins based on kind of many elements coming together, but also spaced apart. You know what I mean? Like, they never go for those all-in strategies. They have a tank here, they have a tank there. They all got a perfect line of sight on each other, but they're not very good in those firefighting all-in strategies, which I think they need to kind of be working on here. But it's doing well so far.
Let's see if there's enough time to make those changes. There's the Annihilator a little bit caught out on that middle road. Meritorious is going to put one into him as well. The Annihilator has to be very careful. He is endangered species if I've ever seen it. He will send a shot in the direction of Meritorious, but he's got a 5100 and a 54 lightweight looking straight down at him, and they will dispatch of him fairly quickly. As Vorsen, Zik positive. The last 3 standing for Tornado Rocks. Their ability to defend has been hampered definitely somewhat by losing that tank. In terms of health points, it's not a huge difference, but it's about having that extra gun in the game. Zik now going to make his way up that road as well towards Shockish and try and shake things up here for Ding, prevent them from being able to attack cohesively.
Yeah, nice play on to Meri there. I mean, obviously coming from GG well played, he needs to be stepping up his game in this new team, but this is a very risky move from Zik.
He's putting himself out in the open. There's not really positive, and Vorsa not really in position to actually be able to get some crossfire or be able to make up for the damage that's being dealt to Zik. Maybe a strange scouting run. Maybe expecting Ding retreated back into the city, but that wasn't the case at all. And Shockish is going to get the kill on towards Zik, and Tornado Rocks losing a tank there for no apparent reason.
Yeah, that was a little bit unnecessary. You know, you always can take damage from pretty much everywhere when you go up that 0 line. And we saw it yesterday on Tuesday as well. And obviously it didn't work out too well for Tornado Rocks, as we've seen it for plenty of other teams. So Meritorious making a last stand.
Yeah, that's it. Well, positive going down now as well. Meritorious just closing the lid on that particular coffin. And then Shockish in towards Vorsen. The first round going over towards Ding there. And to be honest, relatively convincing style. I mean, we've seen both of these teams sort of show their strengths and their weaknesses there, but Ding definitely a lot stronger. As you said, you know, yes, we see one-line pushes fairly frequently on Ruinberg, and yes, they do result in damage. Quite often, though, they happen really early on in the round, and it's just a matter of gaining position. So, as I said, we still have to ask the question of Zik why he was there at that time.
No, I think Zik sacrificed himself, and it was a game of sacrifices from Tornado Rocks. Like, Meritorious being in that position, he was not expecting to have to deal with the 5100, so he got taken down from a full HP, absolutely disastrous. He expected more tanks to be further forwards and be able to cover him. Obviously didn't happen, and that was pretty much game over from that point onwards. So we saw the initial push as well. That was obviously Meritorious taking down the Annihilator even. So still this initial push. Good work by Diplomat going forwards, putting pressure on to the LTTB. And then, you know, the T-37 comes forwards, a little bit more pressure via the cap. And they kind of rotate back around to go for Armageddon, which I think it worked out in the long run. But at that point, when they didn't go for that cap, I think, you know, Tornado still had a good chance of winning. And
probably one of the most interesting little engagements we saw, there was in the middle of the city. It was Negative versus Hulknik. There was an LTTB against a lightweight.
Yeah.
And Negative left Hulknik on a one-shot as the lower tier tank. Yeah,
that's the thing. This is what super surprised me. I said it on Tuesday. I'll say it again. When I played the LTTB, I thought it was just a slightly slower, less agile version of the T50-2 with a better gun. So I'm super surprised we didn't see it in Season 5, didn't see it in Season 5, and then we saw it basically carry EL Gaming into the finals. So you can see why it does an incredible amount of damage, and if you get the first couple of shots on, you get the first couple of free shells without taking anything, you can take down those T-54 lightweights.
Something else that you pointed out that maybe confused you a bit, citing Ding as more of an Eastern Cap focused team, they sort of went north and that sort of had its ups and downs, and they sort of retreated back into the center and then out onto the field. Was that a result purely, I guess, of the setup here? I mean, you can see now Ding are sort of out onto the field, and Tornado are slowly but surely getting surrounded.
Yeah, they you know, the Annihilator in that IS-3 just got absolutely obliterated. He got surrounded, and that's a problem with taking the IS-3. I honestly think they should probably stick to 5100s. I'm not a fan of the IS-3 on the defensive side. I think if you take the IS-3, you got to plant it up into that Eastern Cap, or if you have to, put it in the middle so then it can go to defend your Northern Cap. Because if you put it in that position, it's stuck there unless you push around the middle area, and then you're taking a gamble. So 5100, in my opinion, is always a better idea, but it looks like they're sticking to their guns in the 6th round.
Well, yes, round 2 is underway, so let's get straight on into the battle. Ding with the first round up against Tornado Rocks. Looks like fairly similar lineups here. Plenty of 54 lightweights thrown in the mix, standard IS-3, and a 5100 for Ding.
Yeah, so we got the setup we saw on Tuesday, where they're basically just waiting for the first bot to come out, and then they're going to try and do the damage, but it doesn't look like Tornado's making that mistake.
You can see the Stoic heading north again, just a spot out again. Streko, I believe it is in the LTTB, is just sitting over watching what I guess the proceedings happening on the northern side of the cap. So far, there won't be a lot to write home about, really, as Ding haven't selected, I guess, the side they want to go for. Maybe we'll see that preferential approach towards the east coming out from them, as they are now mobilizing amongst those city streets. You can see them on the minimap on your screen as well. Mostly just jockeying back and forth a little bit here. Tornado Rocks, again, setting up on this mid-village. Could they spread out more, or is it okay to sort of group up like a bit of a cell here?
It's totally okay. I mean, the thing is, last time, because they didn't have any tank basically to deal with the Northern Cap, they definitely let themselves a little bit open here. My confusion is why they didn't just use a T21 and another tier 8 tank. What's the point of having an LTTB there? Because, you know, what's the best situation? You put it there, it gets killed because it's not a good tank, because it's in the open, you know, and it's going to get penetrated in the turret. You take a T21, which has got slightly better camo value, put it into a bush, and it's got great view range. And, you know, if it dies, it doesn't really matter so much. You know, Streko is a useless in that tank, in my opinion.
Okay, we can see Ding have actually split their forces, interestingly enough here. Will Tornado see through this and collapse on this secondary force heading towards the middle of the map? So far, they got a good amount of cover from their city streets. And despite that, Zik is already very, very low, down to about 15, 10% of his health, maybe. And here's the push-up. Shokish is going to take a double tap there as well, drops to 840. Positive force to push back across the road. Perkushi out there, one in response towards him. And it is going back and forth here. So far, Ding with a slight advantage, but they have forced Tornado Rocks now into that sort of southeastern quadrant.
Yeah, they need to push down right now. The Rocks need to push down and come from behind to take down the T-54s. They spotted them too late, and now they got to, you know, have the punishment for spotting them too late, which is obviously a good amount of burst. So just keep control of that city and they should be okay. The
first arm of Ding's force are just kept designed to keep Tornado Rocks here on this street, while the rest of them split towards the cap, and there's only 23 seconds left for Tornado Rocks to disrupt that one. I mean, Negative did take down Perkusi out as well. The Annihilator is going to be making his way across the map as well. Vorsen will be there. So after the smoke clears, Tornado Rocks with a decent hit point advantage, with a 2-tank advantage, and Ding might be made to suffer for splitting their force the way they did.
Yeah, they are. Vorsic is going to be able to get the reset here, no problem at all. And then once that's happened, I think it's game over.
Well, here we go. The so Negative coming from the back as well as a bit of a pincer motion. Armageddon goes straight in towards that cap as well. Meritorious is actually on the reload, useless essentially for the next 20 or so seconds at the very least. Diplomat will pick up the Armageddon, but there's Negative again, stinging, floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. He will still be able to get that kill though. Then Diplomat turns it on him. 3v1 though, Diplomat again. Well, he's done.
Yeah, so the fundamental mistake there from Ding was the fact that they had a great initiation. They took down Stoic, but then they had two options. They could either kept the tanks in the firing line up north to defend those T-54s in the middle, or they could go for that cap. They went for the cap. Those T-54s didn't survive for long enough. And then, you know, plenty of time, about 7-8 seconds for Vorsic to get the reset and secure the win for Tornado.
See, there's definitely an element of strategy there. You can see now, this is the initial push across that sort of the park side of the map, all the way up towards the road. So they're forcing Rocks back here. But could their forces sitting over to the cap have come forward as well?
Well, I think they can. The thing is, you can just sit there. You can sit back up in the north. You can just provide good support. So you see the Armageddon push forwards, then you have the tanks in the background killing Armageddon, and you're okay. But you could see their cap has started. All the tanks up there are stopping to support. Now you'll see Rocks push over, no support from north, and yeah, they die too quickly, and you still got 25 seconds, which is an eon, to get the decap.
Almost prematurely, the tanks there from Ding just backed away and thought about the cappers as if they were of two minds. In fact, as if the entire team of Ding was of two minds there, quite literally. So backing away, and that 5100 wasn't even on reload necessarily at that point, if I'm not mistaken, because it was only until the push happened here. And you can see Meritorious in the 5100 here. This is when he was on reload, and they just completely closed the net on Ding after the fact. I mean, if Ding had a feeling that maybe the fight in the middle wasn't going so well, maybe they were going to struggle to win it out, could they have used that secondary force that was initially designed to cap as like an auxiliary force, maybe to help support in the mid, or would that have been just as suicidal?
Yeah, they could have, but the biggest problem there for Ding was they were worried about the LTTB because they couldn't shoot from the north into the middle onto the LTTB. So what they need to do, Ding needed to push up with those middle tanks up and towards the eastern village so the LTTB couldn't shoot them. Or just hold that middle area with defensive lines from the back, and basically anytime the LTTB peaks, you just take it down. You put a couple of volleys towards him, and he should be able to fall pretty quickly. So I think just one bad decision from Ding cost them that game. And
I mean, speaking about LTTB, Stoic got eliminated fairly quickly as well. Yeah. I mean, you said he's a little bit useless in that position. Wasn't really any ability for his team to sort of protect him there as well. And you could see even the tweets coming out from Ding. So do get involved, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag WGL is all you need to join the conversation in with us over on Twitter. Great chance to get your thoughts and feelings, your emotions, the deep ones, of course. This is a intensely emotional game, but get it out there, of course, and we'd love to read them out for you. Now, moving on towards the next map, the next round. It's 1-1.
Yeah.
Now, Ding, obviously, we're going to be seeing them on the defensive side of things. Do you think, what have you seen from them in that regard? Do you think it's going to be anything similar, or something a little bit different?
I think Ding, as I said, I think they struggle together as a unit. So that's, I think, what Rocks should be playing on right now. They should be going forwards, going for those engagements, making sure that that Ding has to fight them around the corners. Because Ruinberg, if you're playing that Eastern Village, it's all about the corner fights. Can you make that shot while you only have that 1 meter space? Can you get the engagements in terms of the push around the corners? Get the firefights in the correct positions where you have plenty of cover, but the enemy team's stuck in between a rock and a hard place. So, in my opinion, that's what Rocks have to do.
All right, so just to rehash in case I got it wrong the first time, Ding are defending, Tornado Rocks on the attacking side. We're seeing a little bit different situation transpire in the early moments.
So the 5100s and the IS3s have basically got a good line at the back, just wanting to push through. You got Kenny Boy going forwards in that T54 and getting an early shot onto Positive, and a bit of a mistake there from Rocks, just stopping in the middle and not willing to really give up that early damage, and it might have cost them a little bit too much, but nothing too catastrophic.
Can see the push now. Positive and Zik with the 2 tanks to take some hits because they stopped to try and put some shells in towards Stoik, and he is half health. But what will the cost be now? Base capture, of course, has started. Just a tickle really on the cap just to make sure that Ding are paying attention. The Annihilator now just back and forth. He did have a shot, as well as Zik gets a little bit of a flanking shot in towards Hulknik, a critical target at the moment for Tornado Rocks as they try and push in. This is a little bit of a heavier lineup from Ding than what we saw from Rocks on the defending side. As 2 IS3s there, 2 5100s to back them up as well. So they're quite happy to play a bit of a turtle motion at the moment. And the T54s of Rocks are just trying to make an opening, just sting, harass, and try and team up and take a tank out of the action. So
Ding knows that their weakness is playing together in Eastern Village, and you can see they're trying to counter that with basically 4 heavy tanks. It's super scary to play against such a lineup. We in the past, in 742, when we saw these big heavy tank stacks, we basically always thought, okay, so the team maybe lacks in a little bit of tactics, a little bit of coordination, and they counter that with just numbers. And that's where, you know, Tornado thinks, okay, you know, we need to bring the strategical side of our team out and actually, you know, win based on our strategy and our tactic, and pulling Tornado all over the map, pulling Ding all over the map even. And you can see that trying to do that by putting Positive in the cap.
Well, Ding appear to be fairly resistant to any attempts to sort of split them apart by Tornado, when Negative is doing his very best on the 1390, but it's a 90mm gun and it doesn't have the best penetration, especially against the armoured front of an IS3, as he's been yet to be able to connect. And Positive is just going to try and get the timer ticking in some way or another, maybe start to give a little bit of buzz in the back of Ding's mind and realise that they have an objective to protect. What's interesting, though, is the movements happening over the rest of the map. Look into the north, of course, you can see the 54 lightweights are banding together. Percusiat, and there's one behind him as well. Stoik is also in position with his MT25. Streko forced to back away.
Yes, Streko again being caught out a little bit too early. Some bad driving as well, and Pursuate will come in, but you got Negative there in the background, just coming off reloading that AMX 1390.
Oh, but he wasn't able to get a shell in towards Percusiat before he got across the gap, and now Negative will find himself without many friends and without many surfaces to hide behind. I think now Percusiat is duck around and make his way through, and still Ding are immovable objects in the middle of the map, but they're using, you know, they've got this heavy tank sort of core, but they're using the light tanks quite effectively as scouts. And those 54 lightweights, they got their target, and they're going to head back towards the top of the map.
So I think Ding were a little bit scared that they would lose that eastern side engagement because some good corner play by Rocks, and Rocks were equally scared that they would get overmatched by the heavy tanks in the Eastern Village. They saw their opportunity to potentially take down the MT25 or Percusiat, and they went for it, and that's why they lost that Eastern Village, apart from the Annihilator and T54 and Volsik joining him as well. And, well, they haven't got much for it. They took down Stoic in the MT25, which is not a massive deal. And let's see if they can gain any more. If I was them, I would be playing up for that northern cap. You got Volsik, oh, you got the Annihilator, even, oh, he got taken down. That completely ruined my point, but yeah, that's made it super tricky for Tornado to actually do anything now. I would still say their best bet is the northern cap.
Well, I mean, they're losing health very, very quickly. They're also running out of time. And yes, almost just as if you say it, Tornado are now banding up and looking at that northern cap. But is it too little, too late? Have they lost too much health to make this one happen? Percusiat's going to get pushed into by Positive here, and he's going to take a shell for his trouble now. Positive can't really advance any further right now without taking out this threat initially. And Positive is a one-shot to that 54 lightweight. Of course, Hulknick sitting out in the background as well. Ding really don't have to do much more here than sit and hold their lines.
Yeah, they don't really have to do much because those 5100s are supporting Percusiat in the front lines. You got Kenny Boy as well over towards the right side now. I think they're going to do a good job taking these two out. It's just what they do after that.
Percusiat's hung on for so long there. Hulknick did pick up one of those lightweights there. The Armageddon and Zik and Negative, and it's Vorsen. They're the last 4 tanks left for Tornado Rocks, and they are running out of health puts. Negative gets a shot on towards Kenny Boy, and that is maybe going to relieve some of the pressure, but there are some big tanks still on the map for Ding. Hulknick there is getting his reload on, but Shockish is making his way across. Diplomat still has 3 in the chamber. I think Tornado Rocks sensing a moment of weakness here from Hulknick are going to go towards him now, but Shockish is going to be there to protect if he has to. Zik sets himself up nicely amongst that house to put some shots on towards that 5100, and Hulknick may go down, but what else will we see? Vorsen drops to Meritorious as well. Shockish is set up in the middle, a bastion of defense, and of course Diplomat in the 5100 is on reload, but they have 3 big tanks, and Tornado has 3 very wounded light tanks.
Yeah, they'll have the speed still, but they just... I'm not sure if they will have anything else. Even Meritorious taking down Zik. Not exactly sure why he just got himself spotted out there. He's even behind a bush, but just went into a little bit too far forwards and got spotted and taken down very quickly. I think both being one-shots, it's going to be very, very soon until they go down.
A very token attempt by Tornado Rocks to try and secure this capture here. Negative being the last man standing. He's off reload, but he's going to need a little bit more than 6 shots from that 1390 to level this game. He's just going to try and back away now. Of course, Tornado Rocks, there's no playing for time for them. It's either attack or lose the round. So he may be just trying to hold things up a little bit. Maybe he can give his team some time to discuss the next round. Of course, Tornado Rocks still have another round of attacking to do. So, I mean, Ding managed to get that attacking round already. They're sitting pretty. Those maps where it is defense biased, if you can pull that one attacking map off, you're already off to a flying start and have that advantage. But Negative here, I mean, 10 shots for 10 hits, it's not too bad, but to 1390, he needs a team behind him to really back him up.
Yes, you know, a 1390 great in situations where you have a single shot tank like a T-54 or a 251, but on its own, it's a tricky tank to play, just like the 5100s. So, you know, all we can see from them, of course, you know, Shockerfish, team captain of Ding, doing a nice bit of damage, 2k, and he'll certainly be happy with that result.
Oh, there it is, of course, Ding picking up their second map of the round in a very convincing style as well. I mean, you talked about sometimes teams are picking this heavy lineup, maybe if their strategic depth isn't great. Didn't really have to be, though, on that map, did they?
No, the thing is, the gamble is, of course, go north or go to the Eastern Village, but I think as soon as Ding, Tornado saw that Ding were going towards that Eastern cap with so many heavy tanks, you immediately get out of that situation. You don't do this, you don't push forwards, because even if you do hit your shells, technically it should be a 1-for-1 exchange. You very rarely get free damage, and a 1-for-1 exchange against an IS-3 is basically 130 more damage, 140 more damage. So, you know, you should never go for those engagements. They should have gone up north. If they went up north, they would have been in a lot better situation, but they just guessed incorrectly that time. Very,
very tough. As we've seen these lightweight compositions actually succeed over the heavier ones, the IS-3s, but on a map like mine's maybe where it's a little bit easier to outmaneuver and get around your opponents. Here's Percusiat chasing Strecko down now, and this is what Ding were able to do, is use those couple light tanks as a little bit of a strike force just while they covered, I guess, the periphery to protect that larger core.
Yeah, Negative getting a little unlucky there. If he had come off reload about 5, maybe 10 seconds beforehand, he would have been able to put Percusiat in a very awkward situation, but Stracko again getting caught out a little bit early on. But, you know, Elney and LTTB maybe didn't lose himself the round, but certainly didn't help his team out.
And this was, I guess, one of the more important moments is we're starting to realize that time is ticking down, and Percusiat already went for that little cleanup run through the city. And at that moment where the Annihilator went down, so he picks up that kill there, but it's not long before he gets sort of taken down in the middle of the map. And you can already see, you can see now, this far into the game, how thick the lineup there was for Ding as they're sitting amongst the middle there. There was really very, very difficult situation to try and dig out those heavier tanks. And I mean, what do you do, though? Of course, you know, Tornado has another attacking round to go still.
Yep.
They need to come up with something against those heavier lineups. What would you recommend?
Definitely up north. Definitely go up north. I have really no clue why Tornado went for the Eastern Cap in that situation when you have such an overmatch in terms of damage and hit points. You go up north where Positive is right now. You take down QCat and the LTTB that was where, or the MT25 that was there, and then you're laughing because, well, Ding needs to basically drive straight through the middle and try and get the reset. Oh, then you have an MX3090 in the form of negative to try and get some good side shots onto those tanks just crossing through the middle. So
a strategy we're starting to see around the end of Season 5, but probably more the Grand Finals, is that you would see the Light Force would always push up into those northern buildings in numbers, and then sometimes we see like the heavier or the slower tanks will just move onto the cap just around the corner in a position where they can't be seen. Is that what you're sort of hinting towards? You want to see a bit more of that classical Ruinberg approach that we've been seeing? Yeah, for sure. I always think it's a hard thing now for Tornado, because they can either guess and go for the same thing twice, or just reset things a little bit. Now, I can say already that the lineups have changed, so clearly Ding knows that, you know, if they try that again, Rocks are just going to go all the way up north and they're going to cat them out or just take them down with some good side shots. So they've gone for the T54 lightweights and the 25100s, and Stoic playing the T37. So they know that they can't try the same thing twice. But I think Ding is just playing a more well-rounded lineup, and Rocks might favor that, because I think Rocks is a more glued-together team in those engagements. All right, well, as you said, Ding, I mean, with a little bit of a lighter lineup, it'll be interesting to see here. Just waiting for Rocks to ready up. We'll be into the game very shortly. Do participate, of course, in the conversation that is happening on Twitter with the hashtag WGLEU. What are your thoughts? What are your predictions? I know Carmen's already had plenty of his predictions over the last few weeks, putting up on Facebook and all that sort of stuff for us. But if you may not want to go as in-depth as Cosmo, and that's fair enough, but do let us know what your thoughts are and everything, and who you think is going to come out on top in this one, because, of course, it is Ding leading 2-1 over Rocks. We have our last round on Ruinberg to come up very, very soon. We're going to load into the game. And, I mean, as I said, lighter lineup here coming out from Ding. No IS-3s anymore. They, as you said, they don't really want to be caught sort of crossing, you know, the field in the open. Knowing that, do Tornado Rocks really need to change anything in their lineup, or do they want to just stick to that strategy they initially had in mind? Well, they've got the IS-3 and the 5100, which is, I think it's a good setup. I think it's a good shout. The IS-3 is always tricky. I mean, if it works brilliantly. If it doesn't work, then it's always, you know, frowned upon a little bit, because of its kind of cumbersome inability to get across the map quickly. So, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens here. But I like this. I like this Rock. I like the chances of Rocks in this round. Okay, Rocks now making the moves out. The T37 out on the southern side. That's a little bit more common. We see that 37 just nestle himself up in that bottom right-hand corner of the map. But here's the push. Rocks heading straight, of course, over towards the eastern cap. But look at the push out from Ding here. They're not wasting any time. This is a little bit more standard as to what we're used to seeing. Those 54 lightweights are going on the low part of that top road, and they're going to set up in the corner. Yeah, they're going straight across to the zero line. They'll have great shots onto the tanks that are going towards the middle. This is a good initial strategy. I think Ding might have also expected Rocks with those T-54s go up into the zero line. So we'll have to see. But great counter-attack from Rocks, just going to try and flank them and box them in. That's it. Reading into the fact that Ding have invested some tanks in towards that K0 line. They've now moved into the city. That's where the fight's going to happen. But there's still two 5100s on the side of Ding. Diplomat and Hulknik outputting a huge amount of damage individually. Zik is the first casualty for this game. Positive and negative. Brothers in Arms forced to back right on away, because Diplomat is still letting shells rip. Hulknik still has one more in the chamber as well. This is not looking ideal for Rocks, especially in terms of this little engagement. But how do Ding keep going? Well, the three tanks there were kind of left on their own. I mean, it was absolute rollover by Ding. They just retracted back, and really the rest of Rocks are kind of without answer. It was only the one 5100 for Rocks, and he has just gotten himself on towards the street. He fired some shots, but it looks like Rocks is trying to go for the head-to-head engagement now. I mean, Stoic is going to take down the Armageddon. Vorsen is the last tank standing for Rocks, and that is one of the quicker maps that we have seen. Ding changing it up at the same time that Rocks did, but it seems as if they've got the better of them now. Forsen, he's looking pretty lonely in that corner there. Kenny Boy on one side, Meritorious on the other. That's definitely a rock and a hard pace that he is in between, and there are a lot of shots. They're just going to thud into that paper mache armor of the 5100, and that's going to claim Ding their third round victory. Well played to them.
Yeah, good retraction back. Big mistake by Zik there in the T54 lightweight to basically go too far forwards, overextend, and get him taken down. He didn't expect the second 5100. He maybe thought he was towards the left. So that T54 went down. That gave Ding some confidence going forward. They still had 4 shells in those autoloaders, 3 or 4 shells. That was enough to take down, I believe, negative or positive in the other T54. And then that was pretty much game over. 2 tanks and the rest of Rocks weren't really in position to actually support the rest of their team who were up in the village. So maybe just some bad miscommunication, but, you know, what can you do?
So we said we enjoyed the flex here from Tornado, like the change of mind that put him in towards the city, but they put themselves 3 lightweights into a fight with 2 5100s.
Yeah, and you can see they did it. There's too many. The tanks, the rest of Tornado aren't moving. They're not moving at all. The T-37's not doing anything. None of them are doing anything. They're just leaving these 3 to make their own mistake, or I'm not sure exactly what. Now they're finally moving, maybe expecting those 2 T-54s to hold their own and for Ding not to go aggressive.
I mean, these are the 2 minds Tornado Rocks that we've kind of been talking about sometimes. They seem like a little bit split. There was the force that moved into the city, and the rest of the force didn't really respond that well. And I mean, it was over before you realised it. There's Vorsen. He was supposed to be the biggest damage dealer for Rocks. The only 5100 they had to answer the 2 of Ding. He wasn't even remotely close to the firefight.
No, and you can see the damage of the 5100s, what they can actually output. That's the funny thing. Almost like the 5100 from Rocks lost them that round, and the 5100s from Ding won them that round. So you have that whole binary opposite. So yeah, they've definitely got some mistakes they need to kind of correct there.
Well, to be fair, they have a little bit of time to work on that one, and we have a little bit of time too between our first and second map. So we're going to go to a quick break now, ladies and gentlemen. And when we return, we're going into Himmelsdorf, our second map. Can Rocks bring back a few rounds against Ding? Or will they be on the wrong end of an IS-3 front spike? We'll find out soon. See you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WGL EU, and we are in the mix here with some fantastic games on match day number 2. Rocks, or Tornado Rocks should I say, up against Ding. Some interesting games so far. Tornado Rocks showing some potential early on, but Ding have been very, very hard to shake on the defensive side of Ruinberg.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. Tornado were pretty good on the attack. They had some good ideas. But, you know, Ding just being so progressive and so hard to deal with that even when Rocks tried very hard, they just couldn't break that lineup. And it seemed to me like, you know, Ding knew what Rocks would do in terms of lineups and what they wanted to do with them before even Rocks knew it. So they had that counter with the heavy tanks and the Ruinberg on the first round. They knew they had to switch it up with the T-54s in the second round, and it worked superbly. So
now we're going to be moving on towards Himmelsdorf, our second map, and Rocks are finding themselves in the position that they have to attack to sort of keep themselves in the game. And as we said earlier on, it's a little bit simpler now to get those attacking rounds, you know, on Himmelsdorf. But they've got a big job against them as well. And we can see here already some of the lineups are coming out. Two very, very heavy lineups.
Yeah, well, of course, it's Himmelsdorf. I mean, the only big thing on Himmelsdorf would be what tier 6 tanks they're using. I mean, we don't see any tier 7s, really. We saw one on Tuesday with the double Tigers. But normally you just have that tier 6. In the previous matchup, we saw the T21 being brought out, and it seemed to work reasonably well. But, you know, it doesn't make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, perching that T21 up on the top of the hill with a side range, kind of almost throwback to the Pershing. On the days we used to see that occupy a tier 8 spot. Now, of course, the T21 does that one fairly well. And yeah, Tornado Rocks having to attack here. I mean, we've seen some wacky sort of western side pushes here. But quite often now, the hill is being utilised so much more because teams want to try and swoop down on top of that northern cap. We'll find out now. We're going to head into game. It's going to be Ding with 3 rounds already against Tornado Rocks to attack to give themselves a chance to hang on in this game.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, and I'll keep on saying it for the next couple of weeks for sure, the attacking side on Himmelsdorf has got a massive buff, and it's certainly now down to the defenders to actually bring their own flair and try something new. In my opinion, as a defender, you need to get control of that 8 line, you need to get control of the 1-2-3 line, and you need to go aggressive to try and get some early information at the very least, not to mention damage, to actually stand a chance in this round.
Streko getting spotted out fairly early on in the piece, and that was the Stoik pushing across the map. So, again, he always finds himself in this position. He seems to be where the action is or be a little bit caught out here. I mean, it's not going to be much to write home about if he drops down, but still, Ding now with a little bit of information gained.
But it's ridiculous. Stoik was on the move, and he beat Streko. I mean, come on. And also, Streko, you know, he messed up a few times in that previous round as well. So, you know, Stoik should be down to 20% HP, 15% now. Stoik is in a great position. He can move around, take down Streko. Now Armageddon has to, you know, put himself into a situation where he has to deal with Stoik. So you can see this like ripple effect going through all the tanks, and that does cause big problems. But also, I mean, Streko isn't on the hill. I think one of the most important things on Himmelsdorf with the new northern cap position, you need to have something on the hill with decent view range and just something to stop other teams rotating, the other team using their light tank to rotate around. But we have got a little bit of movement from Tornado.
They have actually pulled back off the hill as well, so it's almost as if just Stoik pushing across the middle was enough for them to sort of change tact a little bit here. They have left, I think, an additional heavy on the hill. That's a 5100. So nothing to write home about. 5100s were often used to flex off of that hill. They are pretty speedy tanks and can move around the map fairly well. But it looks like Tornado Rocks are thinking about angling now towards that western cap.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We saw on Tuesday that when I think it was Wusa No Mercy. When you have a push going up the 1-2-3 line, you got that 5100 there. You actually have a very good chance because it's the IS3. You actually got a very good chance because you can overmatch very easily. But you know, I think they maybe should have gone up for the 8 line and just used Stoik to take down that other T-37.
All right, so Zik taking a hit there as well as he did pass when that 5100 was watching straight down the 3 line. Diplomat actually a little bit out in the open at the moment as he crosses to change his position in that Waffenträger. Not a tank that can really stand up in a head-to-head engagement. So he wants to sort of tuck himself away there on the 1 line and get ready. Definitely Ding have read into this push as well. They seem to be an excellent team on the defensive side. very, very hard to shift. Now, the Annihilator and Zik have moved up a little bit as well, trying to put some shots over, but it was really only Stoic who's taken any damage on Ding so far. And again, they're sitting back and they're waiting for Tornado to make the moves.
Yeah, they were trying to hit the Waffentrager, but obviously no success. And I think Tornado kind of lost a little bit here. I mean, they tried the 1-2-3 line, they got spotted. They had a good idea. The Borsig would be there, the IS3. But let's hope they get this next move right, which would of course be to move Stoic around to take that other T-37 down. Streko to move around to take down Stoic. Have Armageddon through the middle through the last shot, and then overmatch on the 2-3-4 line. Perhaps even go for 6-7 line with a cap. Vorsig's also coming off the hill. So I think finally Tornado, this has been the problem. Tornado's always a little bit slow. They're finally getting their heads into this battle, and let's hope they have time to do it.
Positive is mobilising. As you said, Vorsen, well, sort of pushing off the hill, but not quite. Maybe just trying to get some shots or something. But Positive will flex around to try and get the finish on towards Stoic here. And that is when things will open up a little bit more for Roxy. Strecker, maybe a little bit of miscommunication. Didn't really have to push around there because the Armageddon was already on top of that. But now, Zik, Positive, the Annihilator, the Armageddon, all have been spotted out by Ding. So they have lost, of course, that one tank, but gained a fair bit of information as a result. Percusiat trying to put a shot across the map on towards Positive, but he's not able to connect it now as Ding starts to just draw together a little bit here. We might see that traditional 3-4 line defense.
I think we'll see the T-37 go into the cap. The cap will start, and then we'll see... I don't know. I was kind of expecting the Waffentrager to go up the D line and just completely overmatch a Tornado for one side, but it looks like they're actually going for the other option, which is from the B line, the BC line. But I think either way can work, but it's all about execution. So the cap has started via Streko. The IS3s will be there to defend, and now it's the two choices. Does Ding split up, or do they go together in a concerted fashion?
All right, now with the changes to Himmelsdorf, we don't really see tanks try and force away up the 3-4 line as much as they used to. This is a bit more common, this kind of split. We're seeing they're able to get 3 tanks on the cap. 3 tanks that are really, really hard to see for Ding. No, nothing is really going to present themselves to them, and it's going to force them to push out across. And they have to go in numbers here. They have to guarantee themselves at least a somewhat fair firefight if they're going to commit tanks to defending this cap. And Meritorious will be the first man out of the gates, and he will get a bit of a recap there. A reset there. Kenny Boy took a shot. Streko goes down. Armageddon picks up Kenny Boy there as well. And now the setup here for Ding is on towards the cap. They've lost a fair bit of health in the process, though. The Annihilator is moving up to assist. Vorsen there doing a heck of a lot of damage as well. Meritorious forced to back away, and he's completely obliterated now. Shokish and Hulknik, they're forced to pay, I guess, for pushing over on towards the cap like they did. The Annihilator's coming around the corner. Armageddon not far behind. Zik and Positive to join with their IS3s. That's some big, big tanks with some big guns moving on towards the cap, but it is still going. Shokish is still keeping a little bit of pressure. He's going to get blown up in just a moment there, but Hulknik is sitting on the cap. He's going to get surrounded, though, and it looks like Ding are in deep, deep trouble.
There's also 5 seconds left to actually get a decap here, and only 48 seconds left on the clock. Diplomat does get that, but also pays the ultimate price, goes down.
It's going to be the cap there. Tornado Rocks set it up perfectly. A very standard sort of slide onto the cap and bait. And this is what you've been talking about the whole time with the new Himmelsdorf. This is why it can be so hard to defend on this map. Because we saw 3 tanks there, 3 tanks capping, which, can I just say, reduces the cap timer down to about 25 seconds. And it forced an immediate response from Ding. It is very hard to put together any sort of normal response to that strategy. So here's the initial flex here. This was Tornado Rocks changing tact.
Yeah, this is the kind of, okay, like we want to go to the 1-3 line, see what's going on there. I think they get a whiff of the Waffentrager because they get spotted. And then they go back around. But I think they should have just gone back around immediately. It's a little bit unfortunate that they didn't manage to take down Stoic there in the T-37 with a 1 versus 1. He definitely should have worked out for him. And that's why Ding kind of said, okay, we're just going to keep that T-37 there. We're not going to move out. I mean, if you go into a corner like that, you can't really move out anyway. And if you can, you've almost always won the game. So that's the initial flex, and a decent move. I think it's the reason why that cap, why the game timer got so low. I mean, it was on like 40 seconds when the round was won. So they kind of wasted a minute and a half, 2 minutes there, but I think it might be necessary.
So now as we think about the way the rest of the map happened, then the Waffenträger kind of struggled to be effective here. You can see it off in the corner, and this is now that second stage push here from Tornado Rocks, not going up the middle roads we used to see. That was how they used to approach the cap, but they could sort of head off towards that diagonal here and work their way onto it. Could Ding have had a better setup here to counter that? Because it is damn hard. They were ultimately forced to push across.
But if you look here, the positions say to you immediately that you're going to have the 5100 and the two IS3s, the one in the K line, meet up on the C line and push across to do the attack from behind, and the runs up north are going to go from the B line. Now, that would be a totally normal thing to do, but they do something really strange where they all get together and they all push the B line. So, in my opinion, that was just a bad call, because when they pushed forwards into the cap, as you can see, they took so much damage at the beginning. They thought the Waffenträger would have a bigger impact. It didn't, and the IS3 just gets absolutely wrecked. So the damage just flows straight in the favor of Tornado immediately.
So what are your thoughts, and what's the setup there in the future for Ding? Providing that that's going to be another sort of approach that Tornado we're going to do. Can they maybe move themselves across a little bit more? Can they disperse themselves, across the A line a bit better to receive that?
I think I just don't think that one push, that one concerted push works for Rocks. I think they need to go for many different sides. Works for Ding. They need to go from a couple of angles, and they need to have something on the 8 line, the banana road, to basically pester Ding. So pester Rocks. So they got a lot of issues to kind of fix. But I mean, of course, they got another round coming up.
So that's going to be important, of course. Now, changes of tanks. Any do you really think? I mean, a bit of a generic question, of course, but we often see that standard 5100 IS3 stack. I mean, 37 in there as well. If you want to sort of be able to, to harass from behind, is it enough to use that 37? Do you want to maybe use a 5100 to flex through? Is there any sort of chance for variation here for Ding as they sort of struggle to think about how they're going to put up their defense?
I think the 37's enough. 115 damage. It stacks up really quickly. Even against an IS3, it really can do some damage. I think for me, the gamble, I guess the attacking team can go with now. I think Rocks could pick up an AMX-12T. And it's a small enough tank to actually put it into the kind of doorway that's in the northern cap. So you put a tank there, you put 5100 in front of it, and you have to round the 5100 out the way to actually get the decap on, and you get some good firing positions to deal with the tanks that are trying to get the 5100 out the way. So I think that's the gamble we haven't seen yet in the league yet, but I think we'll see in the future matches.
You hit it here first. Teams are probably listening in and maybe thinking there might be a possibility. Thank you, Mr. Tanks Dictionary. So we're going to be into our next round very, very soon. Of course, it is Tornado Rocks actually picking up that round. So they look like they were maybe dangling from a thread, just on the precipice of losing this one out. But they've managed to bring it back a little bit here. And, of course, everyone getting their thoughts in by Twitter as well, which is what we'd like to see as well. Makes us feel like it's not just me and Ollie sitting in this studio. We're going to tick down now. We're going to jump into our map, of course. It's going to be Ding and Rocks. Now, can they make another round here? I mean, a 3-3 scoreline would be phenomenal for these guys, especially after being in such a dangerous position at the end of that second map.
I think they have to, for sure. I've really liked the way Ding has been playing so far, and they played well on the Ruinberg defense. So it'll be hard for Rocks, but if they do, it's going to be a massive payoff for them.
Well, I mean, we look at the lineups here as well. Not too much has changed. It's essentially the same, actually. We haven't seen the Waffenträger, or as a throwback to Lauren, the Waffle Tiger being picked up here for Ding. But how do they use it? That's going to be the real question here. Initial setups. You see the tanks moving out. Oliver, anything special from Ding?
Same start as they did previously, pretty much. A little bit more aggressive, actually. 5100s heading all the way down, but the IS3 is still going to the F line there. You got the same start from Rocks as well, heading up the hill. But yeah, I guess that big point would be that Ding is being a lot more aggressive, and they've already spotted out the Armageddon there in the middle with the IS3.
All right, so he's just going to set himself up onto that hill, a fairly common spot for the IS3. It has a very hard head. It's not easy to penetrate through the turret of that tank, and in recent times it's become even stronger in that regard. Streco now, well, he's probably going to do what he's been doing the last few games and get caught out by these 5100 if he's not careful. Will he just tentatively check that one, or no, he's just going to walk out there. So Hulk is going to put a shot into him as well. killed his gunner straight away as well. So Streko not going to be as useful now as he was before. That was a pretty nasty hit to him. He's just going to have to back up into that corner and really just wait, but that's the overmatch opportunity potential for these 5100s in negative. He's going to try and join up there, but there's a shot for him as well. AMXs were waiting for him. They weren't going to be distracted by Streko just sitting up in that corner. And elsewhere across the map, Tornado Rocks now come off the hill, and they're going to try and respond to this.
What those two 5100s, Kenny Boy and Holdnick, are just going to poke around the corner, put a lot of pressure onto Negative and Streko, and Stoink's going to be there in the background to take care of Streko. So, you know, you have the 3 versus 2 overmatch. It would work very well for them, but it doesn't look like they're going for that one, and that's given Tornado a little bit of time to now get those IS-3s around towards the middle area, and that could cost them dearly because they'll be actually cut in half. So you'll see them push forwards and go for those engagements around the houses and around the train wagons.
Okay, positive Zik and the Annihilator, of course, were those IS-3s that came to assistance. Streko just trying to clear out a little bit of the environment, so the shots are going to be good for the IS-3s coming in. Whoa, Kenny Boy just ducks himself around a corner. The last moment to avoid surely a double tap from those big BL9s there. So he'll have to sit tight. Hulknick is actually on his reload now. And interestingly enough, Tornado Rocks have kept that 5100 up on that hill for quite a long time. And they're still not doing a lot with Vorsen at all.
No, I mean, he's sitting up there, and you know, it's necessary to have a tank there at all times for sure, just to stop the rotates. I mean, even in the previous iteration of Himmelsdorf on attack defense mode, it was always necessary to have a 5100 up there. Now, options for Ding, looks like they're just holding ground, standing ground. They got good crossfires there with Hulknick, Kenny Boy, and Persicate. They got Diplomat in the background as well to provide long-range fire support. Although Kenny and Hulknick look like they are now going to rotate back around and head to a different direction, a different area of the map. But as I said before, you know, the biggest problem with Ding is always been their ability to play together as a unit. And you know, they have to worry when they're heading up into a kind of concentrated area, because Tornado will always beat them in those situations.
Well, speaking of Tornado, they're yet again now thinking about that northern cap, making their way up the 8 line as well with enforcers. 2 IS-3s coming across the map as well. Now, Ding, they smelt this out fairly early on, and they're going to respond to it, but the real question is how. Now, Shockish is already sort of breaking cover and moving across that cap, so that's one key difference to the lineup of Ding is what we saw earlier on, but he's really just to have a crack at Zik, and he's going to fluff the shot completely and then pull back. And well, Streko is still standing that T-37 of Tornado Rocks. You can see him now. Going to be sneaking around the back. He's just going to try and set himself up in that corner. And we may even see a repeat of what we saw on the last match.
The thing is, he didn't spot Meritorious. He only spotted Shock-ish. So Meritorious is definitely now in a good position. Completely unspotted, completely free to get the resets on at any time. And if Streko peaks, he'll also get taken down by Shockfish. So I'll have to see how it works out for him if he does go for that.
I mean, Ding look like they're unable to really deal with this same approach that Tornado are bringing. I mean, Shockish is going to go across now. Streko does get picked up. That's going to alleviate pressure a little bit, but there's still 3 IS-3s, and the salvos are ringing across that cap site. They're not really going to connect because Kenny Boy and Diplomat were well hidden behind that little that window. The Armageddon as well. His way a few more shots towards Meritorious. He was the man that was caught back in the corner. Shockish is very sneakily moving his way up here. He's just been spotted now. He's just going to set himself up, and not a great situation, really. Shot one in towards his side. Now he's going to take a heck of a lot of damage, and Ding again sacrificing a take maybe a little bit too early. Yes, the base capture has been slowed down, but at what cost? That's the question we keep asking ourselves. Hulknick got himself up on towards the side. Meritorious somehow crossed without dying, but here come the shots, and they're coming thick and fast. Ding a little bit behind in health points yet again. Those IS-3s from Tornado Rocks, the spearhead as it were, still looking reasonably healthy.
I think a mistake there from Tornado. They could just push forwards and do the final blow to Ding, but Negative and Vorsic coming from behind to try and do that blow.
Well, Negative will pick up Meritorious there. Bakushat is the last man sort of sitting on the cap, and there's not really much he can do to disrupt it at this stage. He's got to back away around the corner. There is a 5100 flexing. That's Kenny Boy, but he's on reload. He's literally useless. He's nothing but a body at this stage. Bakushat, well, he's about to get completely surrounded by Tornado Rocks. Ding, again, kind of demonstrating that they don't know how to deal with a north cap push. Their setup is indicating that they are, they're not thinking ahead about it enough. And yeah, sure, Tornado Rocks tried something a little bit different in the start, and Ding pushed down that western side. But when push came to shove, Rocks said, all right, well, we'll go back towards that northern cap and see what we can do.
Yeah, Ding seem a little unpracticed on this map. I think yesterday, on Tuesday, I keep on thinking it was yesterday, but on Tuesday we were treated to some good defense by Wusa and No Mercy. So, especially Wusa for sure. But now we're seeing, why Himmelsdorf is so hard. Both times, Ding pushed in all together at once. Both times they failed parlously. But this is the initial damage going on to Streko. But not a massive deal. They actually did pretty well this round. It's pretty funny because his driver, his gunner, and his turret ring got damaged. The guy's either super bad or super unlucky in those situations. Well,
that's right. I mean, he put himself in that situation. Often as a scout tank, you kind of have to accept that you are going to find the enemy first, and they're probably going to be bigger than you, and that's just something you deal with here. But this was the response here. This is when the Annihilator and, of course, Negative moved up into position with the other IS-3s on the other side.
Yeah, this is where Ding could have won it. If they just peaked, Negative would have had to reverse. Streko would have had to reverse. So, and then Stoic could have come around and killed Streko, and he could have done a couple of shells against Negative as well. So that would have been a big deal for them. And Ding could have then gone back to their defensive position. But I think if it would have given Ding one piece of advice on the defense, would be that they have to use tanks a little bit more effectively, because they're just concentrating all in instead of getting the coordination and getting the split pushes.
You definitely get the feeling from Ding that they're a confident team when they can be static, or when they can just sit back and dictate the flow of the game. Yeah, here's a situation where they weren't able to sit back and let it happen. They had to create opportunities. They had to be proactive. And this and then the push afterwards really kind of blew up in their face. So, Ruinberg is a map where you can just sort of sit back and let them come to you. Yep. And it's sort of okay. But Himmelsdorf, even as a defender, you need to still be coming forward a little bit. And you need to pinpoint that moment when you have to go aggressive. And they're not doing a great job of it so far. So
now into the first round, we get to see Ding attack. And, that 12T, we could be seeing that whole 5-6 line push in towards the little house, because the only other reason you use the 12T would be to shoot under those rail tracks. That might be also indicative that Ding wants to play the old school style of Himmelsdorf attack, which is, of course, the 1-3 line.
Exactly. The Annihilator, Positive, and Zik often banding together the three of those. This is, as you said, this is quite much more standard here than the 3-4 line push. It's going to force Ding back a little bit. Stoic takes a big hit, and the 12-ton can't take too many of those, that's for sure. He's going to be forced back, and now Ding sort of caught mid-rotate, heading up the hill. They hadn't even really set up properly. Forced to maybe think twice about it now, should I say. Hulknik again, bring that tank up on the hill, doing his job. He will spot out Streko eventually as he gets across. But now it's interesting to see Ding have to mobilize their forces again. They have to be, well, they can be reactive here, but they still need to take some momentum into this next fight. Their IS-3s are moving into position. You can see the convoy moving out now. The Armageddon is situated on the 8 line. He can take shots at them if he wants to, but they might try and go for the overmatch.
Yeah, it's going to go straight across, actually, and this is dangerous moves. Shockfish does take a lot of damage there across, and the 8 line is really controlled by Tornado.
Shockfish doesn't have an automatic extinguisher on him, so he loses a good chunk of half his health for one shot there. That's unfortunate. Obviously, other consumables or things he preferred to take. But now, here's the push. Meritorious and Diplomatic continuing. Regardless, Negative will be waiting there with a full salvo of shots, and that is going to hit hard. Vorsen now with a couple of his own. Diplomat gets nuked, though, and now Meritorious realizes he might have found himself in a bit of a nasty situation. He backs away just as Percusiat moves around the corner. Shockfish puts a shot over as well. Doesn't quite connect it, but Percusiat does. But here's the response from Tornado Rocks. They're moving across the map, and Ding might get surrounded here.
So, what can they do to get back into this round? They have to try and find a tier 8 tank. They have to try and take a tank down, but you can see Tornado aren't giving them any space or time.
No, Meritorious is just going to get completely jumped onto. And, when you're experiencing any sort of pincer, you need to break through one of the arms of it, but that hasn't worked out well at all for Ding now. Percusi had a couple shots towards him. He manages to avoid them for now, and is trying to send some back at Tornado Rocks, but the pincer, the reaction from Tornado was good. We see some decisive reactions from Tornado. Sometimes they work out well, sometimes not. This time is definitely one of the more positive situations, and they're going to go straight for Hulknik right now. Not a lot of armor for him either. He's going to take a heck of a lot of damage, and it's only Kenny Boy and Percusi out of the other two left. I mean, the man on the hill, Kenny Boy, yeah, he killed Streko. Big whoop. There's not much he can really do now in this situation to make any difference.
Yeah, that's the end of days for Percusi as well. Kenny Boy on reload, as you mentioned. out of this game, and that's a significant amount of hit points in favor of Tornado on the defensive, on the attacking side even. Ding just don't seem to be that well practiced, to be honest, that well suited to Himmelsdorf in general, and that's a big weakness.
It's funny, their attacking rounds seem awkward, and then the defensive rounds where they have to be aggressive kind of seem awkward as well. They've got the fundamentals down. They can sit inside a sort of a tortoiseshell formation and just hold, but in situations like this where you have got to make a move and you've got to make it quick, they just seem to fall apart here. Maybe it's a cohesion thing as well. It's tough. You've got to get 7 players together all to sort of do the same thing at the same time. It's harder than it actually sounds. Kenny Boy's going to go for a cheeky ram. Won't be able to clean up positive there, and he will fall, and Ding will fall as well, giving Rox their 3rd round now. It's a 3-3 scenario here, and maybe not where we imagined we would be after seeing the defense of Ding on Himmelsdorf. Well, we kind of extrapolated and expected them to do the same. They haven't done that on Himmelsdorf, though.
Seems to me that Ruinberg was well-executed strategies, well-executed predictions of what Tornado would do in terms of the tank lineups, and on Himmelsdorf, where those things aren't so important necessarily, they seem to really struggle, and something they need to be working on in the future, because you can practice a lot on Ruinberg, but when it comes down to these like fundamental maps, your steps and your Himmelsdorfs, it's certainly not a good thing to be 3-0 down on them.
And of course, it's 4-3, of course, in favour of Tornado, as we do have the score update here. I mean, yeah, this is a tough position for Ding to be in. It's been quite the turnaround from Tornado Rocks here, and you can see this is kind of what we saw for the most part. I mean, Strecko getting harassed slightly in the early stages of that 5100. As you said, they need to leave a tank up there, but could they have used that in their main force? Can they not allow a T-37 to fill that role?
Yeah, they should have put the T-37 on the hill. I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, you can put a 5100 up on there, but it's still got to do its job. It's still got to be in the right situation. You cannot have a situation where the 5100 either can't rotate north, very rarely rotate south, or at least shoot from the hill and provide some good overwatch damage. So they didn't have any of those 3 things, and it was, out of the game, it did do 2.7k damage in the end, but 1.8k of that was useless damage.
Yeah, and this is the final moments, of course, after that sort of pincer maneuver from Rox happened. I mean, the 3-4 line push is always going to be helpful if you do need to respond to anything on the 8 line. And this is kind of what we wanted to see from Ding on the defensive side. This was kind of a way that they could have answered their woes in defending that sort of cap. They could read into an 8 line push quicker, and they could respond to it in force. And this time, now having to be the attacker, Tornado Rocks have done just that. And it's going to put Ding in an awkward position now. I mean, Tornado Rocks are on the precipice of taking this match away. One more round win. They're on defense here, though, mind you. One more round, and that'll be game.
Yeah, 5-3 would be an incredible scoreline, and the first real comeback of the season, considering, well, Ding were 3-1 up going into Himmelsdorf. So let's hope that, Ding can get themselves sorted here and really stop what's been a very disastrous map for them.
It has been back and forth, just like a seesaw, but Ding have got to band together now and get an effective attacking side on. Again, pushing straight up on towards the hill early. Not too much information gained, really. None given, to be fair. I think they're just taking their time here. The 12-ton again, sitting on that 6 line there, on that G line, should I say, and he's looking for that 3-4 line push, and there it is. Yes, the Annihilator and Positive are there. They've both been spotted out. This time, Stoy is going to avoid damage being done to him, but Ding maybe now need to respond to this in a different manner. Can they push off the hill quickly? Is it worth them going to the cap now, knowing those 3 IS-3s are out of position?
Yeah, they can. That's what they should be doing straight away. It doesn't even matter if they're still spotted. Those 3 IS-3s are cumbersome, and as long as you don't take too much damage, it should just be okay. But they're actually going for another interesting option. They're just going to try and snipe with their own IS-3s wow. I honestly lost my own words because what was that like?
It's like trying to shoot fish in a barrel.
5 shots missed.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's look. I mean, that's an option, of course. Teams. It's a bit more of a passive way to respond to this kind of thing. It's a BO9, man. It's not the most accurate gun in the game.
Yeah, it's not the most accurate, but come on, there's a good chance. But let's see if they can actually do something now. I mean, I don't think they should have stopped anyway. Just don't go for the accuracy with the BL9. Just go straight forwards and go for those engagements. And with so many tanks out of position from Tornado, I don't see why they're not just going for the cap.
Time and time again, Ding are reluctantly pushing, but their pushers are reluctant. They're hesitating. That's the problem here now. Tornado have had time to group all their tanks back up. The Armageddon is in position. He takes a shot, takes one in response there, but he's going to stop Shockish from pushing up now, buying more time. Positive is going to be making his way up that 8 line as well. And Ding are just going to try and brute force this one, moving in numbers. Armageddon is just going to get completely jumped on here. He will go down, but it's the implication of this fight that we're more interested in.
Yeah, it's what positions Tornado has because of the stack from Ding onto Armageddon. 5 tanks actually trying to take him down, 6 almost when you consider the IS-3s just joining the fight in the background. But that's still a good pickup. They got the Armageddon. They've got that tier 8 tank down. And to be fair, apart from the Annihilator in that IS-3 being where he is, you know, Tornado hasn't done a whole lot with it.
Shockish went very, very low. He's been unlucky in this particular round. He's had pretty much no chance to really participate in the fights, initially getting tracked and then a bunch of shells going his way. Meritorious now finding that the shoe is in fact on the other foot. And he is forced to back away into that cave and await to be jumped on by Positive. But the response from Percutiat, Kenny Boy, Diplomat, it has to be swift and it has to be decisive here. Positive taking some damage. Zik trying to respond as well. That's a quick double tap on towards that IS-3. Will leave him low. But Ding, despite all this, yes, there's some fancy movements. Yes, they're moving in numbers. But the war of attrition is being won by Tornado. It's a slight lead. It's still 5-on-5. Health pool slightly in favour of Tornado. But Shockish goes down there. Another gun out of the game. Strecko a little bit low, but Hulknick as well at half health. Well, it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, and Vorsic might just want to peek around, but actually he's leaving it to the Annihilator to win this. Now, that's put Ding in a very awkward situation. They are kind of now knee-jerk reactioning forwards and trying to actually scrounge something from this match.
I think after losing those last couple tanks, things are going to get a lot more difficult for them. Look, it's a T-37 on Tornado Rocks, so it's essentially 3 of those big fighting tanks, but the Annihilator is healthy. Negative is quite healthy. Forsen, well, he's a one-shot, but he's got 5 shots. He's still a very important gun to have on the map. And right now, smoke is clearing a little bit, and Ding looking left, right, and center and realizing that there's only a couple of them left. They've got to sort of band together here a little bit. That worked out fairly well on towards the Annihilator here. We didn't manage to connect that shot on towards the Diplomat, I think it was, and Kenny Boy was able to send one of his own in his direction. Vorsen picks up a Cruciate, though. He was a one-shot. There's a heck of a lot of one-shots right here. The Annihilator doing just that on towards Kenny Boy, and the Diplomat, he's the last man standing, and he's going to drop down as well. Tornado Rocks have turned this one around, and they will take away the victory. It's just a matter of seconds there before Diplomat goes down, and Tornado Rocks, after being down 1-3, bring it back for a 5-3 victory.
Very impressive turnaround from Tornado. You know, having seen them on Ruinberg, I wasn't all too impressed with them. I thought they had a lot of sketchy light tank players, a lot of sketchy individual performances. But then again, it proves that Himmelsdorf is still a map you need to be good at. Clearly, Tornado practice a lot of Himmelsdorf, practice a lot with the Russian teams, and they are very, very good on that map. And, you know, they didn't show everything. Didn't show particularly amazing performances, but after, for instance, that first and second loss, I just don't think Ding had it in them to actually come back.
No, they really struggled to come up with a solution to the attacking force that Tornado were bringing. Himmelsdorf is a changed map. It's very different. I mean, they moved the cap literally 30 meters to the right, and everything has changed now as well. The whole approach. It's opened up a lot of new opportunities for attackers, but this is an interesting moment here where they sort of set themselves up on the hill instead of pushing off it.
Yeah, they should just push straight down. You can see 3 players from Tornado are in the second half of the map. If they just pushed in and set up a normal capping strategy, or they pushed straight across, I think they might have done quite well there. But they're just a little bit too slow, a little bit too obvious. And then when they did push down, they took down the Armageddon, which is fair enough. But then we had the Annihilator and we had Stoic come round from the side and finish off Shockfish.
And there's another moment of hesitation as well, as we just saw on that replay. I think with Shockish, maybe he set up on the corner instead of pushing around. He stopped, completely stopped, and then he waited. And this is the brute force push here as well on towards the Armageddon. Not a terrible idea. I mean, to overmatch that tank to get him out of position as quick as possible. But things started to go down here from here. Yeah,
the IS-3s, the T-37s, you know, basically closing the net on these players here from Ding. And then, as I said, the push around, I mean, still, Ding's about 800, 900 hit points behind, which is never good. Shockish just taking so much damage there in the IS-3. Bring it even further back. Maybe if it didn't take so much, it wouldn't have been so disastrous. But you could see from that move onto Armageddon, after the kind of 30 seconds after that, they received 2.5K damage for almost no reason.
And it all fell apart.
Yeah.
It really did.
And the
Ding
cookie
just,
crumbled.
Yep, the cookie crumbled. Here's the surround here. I mean, this is the response from Ding as they tried to push back out and be like, oh, okay, the Annihilator just kind of got caught, so, you know, respond to this by pushing on. But by the time, there's a lot of damage being put into them from all sides. Well, Shockish, you can see there at the top of his screen, he probably has only fired 2 shots this round.
But
that
it was,
really connected.
it was so unnecessary to push 3 tanks around. You're always going to be fighting one IS-3 there, so you put one 50-100, one IS-3 around, you take down that tank, and you still have the other IS-3 on the cross to deal with Vorsic, who's peeking around the corner, who managed to take down that 50-100, and then the Annihilator pushes around to take down Shockish. So I just think, you know, these overmatches work, but the resource management is a little bit sketchy from Ding.
There has to be a point where you go from pushing as 6, okay, yes, we're creating overmatch scenarios, we're moving as a unit, to, okay, now we need to dedicate some tanks towards the cap, to softening up the forces there. Yeah, we can leave a contingency back on this corner, just like you said. Leave one IS-3 there and let him deal with any tanks that are pushing around. If he gets overmatched himself, he's bought time. He's probably put 1 shell of damage in towards the enemy, and that's okay. But here, Ding, they're literally moving as like one big unit, and the thing is about big units is they're easy to hit.
Yeah.
And the IS-3s are moving, the enemies aren't moving, and it's easy as that. So, that's our second match out of the way. Let us take a look quickly towards our bracket, though, and see what we've seen today. Of course, we know Utopia and Synergy will be up next. But, of course, today, in our first match, should I say, a little bit more one-sided than this one.
Yeah.
It was still you know, a decent performance. I thought we got to see a little bit of what ASAP might be capable of. And then, obviously, our second map was a 5-3 victory there for Tornado Rocks.
Yeah, I mean, the first game was super one-sided to Supreme. There's no point being around the bush. Tornado, Ding, 5-3. Ding looked... I think the interesting thing is, I think if that second map was, let's say, Mines or Ghost Town or Lakeville, I think it would have been a 5-1 victory or 5-2 victory for Ding. But because we went to that, like, back to the basics map where, you know, it's about training it and feeling comfortable on it as opposed to like team synergy. I think that's why they managed to actually come back on that one. That's obviously Tornado.
I think a lot of teams who previously would have felt fairly confident on Himmelsdorf now probably maybe scratching their heads and thinking again, because it has changed. And it's as I said, it's not a big change, but the way you go about the game has changed. So all your intuitions, all your sort of your sticking points now have changed. And like you need to sort of approach it in a bit of a different way. I mean, any final thoughts, I guess, on that one before we sort of move on? Tornado Rocks with a good shy after a bit of a shaky start.
Yeah, I think Tornado and Ding can be fairly happy with that start. I mean, of course, Ding's going to be super annoyed, but they both showed that they're going to be strong contenders. I think Tornado, they need to go back to the drawing board in Ruinberg, because it was almost like it was messy. Whatever they did on Himmelsdorf good, they did bad on Ruinberg, and vice versa from Ding. That's how I'd sum it up. Okay,
well, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Tornado Rocks taking the match over Ding 5-3. After our break, of course, we'll be back with our last match of the day. It's going to be Utopia versus the return of Synergy. Don't miss it. We'll be back soon.